You had a life before your first memory. You laughed, cried, learning faces, and reached for anyone who made you feel safe. Your brain absorbed the rules of gravity, the music of language, and the emotional weather of the people around you. Yet almost all of it vanished. Why can't you remember being a baby? The obvious answer is that your baby brain was too weak to make memories. But the real answer is far stranger. You were making memories long before you could describe them, while the machinery that turns experience into a life story was still being assembled. The memories were real, so where did they go? Try to locate your earliest scene. Perhaps you see a bedroom, a birthday cake, a garden, or the face of someone bending toward you. The image may feel ancient and private, as though it has waited untouched at the bottom of your mind. Now ask how you know it happened. Is it a memory or a story you learned to see? Most adults find their earliest autobiographical memory somewhere around age 3 or 4. Anything earlier is rare and often uncertain. Psychologists call this childhood amnesia, the ordinary disappearance of personal events from the opening years of life. The name sounds like a failure, but what if forgetting is part of how your mind becomes yours? Sigmund Freud gave childhood amnesia its famous early label more than a century ago. He believed forbidden feelings pushed early experiences out of awareness. That explanation matched his theory of the mind, but later research found something less theatrical and more fundamental. Your first years are not simply locked in a vault. What if the vault itself keeps changing shape? A baby can clearly learn. A familiar voice calms you, a repeated face attracts you, and a predictable action creates expectation. Even before birth, repeated sounds can become familiar enough to influence how you respond after entering the world. Experience leaves traces. How could learning happen without memory? Psychologist Carolyn Rovee-Collier demonstrated this with an elegant mobile experiment. A ribbon connected a young infant's ankle to a colorful mobile, so one kick made the objects overhead dance. After practice, the infant kicked more often because the movement had acquired a consequence. The lesson could survive for days or weeks. Does that sound like a mind incapable of remembering? Rovee-Collier also found that a reminder could revive learning that appeared to be gone. A brief glimpse of the moving mobile sometimes restored the old response without requiring the entire lesson again. The memory trace had not necessarily disappeared when the behavior faded. It had become difficult to reach. Could your earliest experiences still influence you without returning as scenes? That distinction matters. Remembering how to respond is not the same as mentally traveling back into a particular afternoon. Your brain contains several memory systems, a point clarified by psychologist Endel Tovin when he distinguished general knowledge from memories of personally experienced events. You can know without reliving. What must your brain add before an experience becomes an episode in your story? It needs a place, it needs a time, it needs a sense that the small body in the scene belong to the same continuing person who is searching for it now. That is an enormous construction project. How can you remember yourself before you fully understand that you are a self? During your first years, the hippocampus is still developing. This seahorse-shaped structure deep inside your brain helps bind sights, sounds, emotions, locations, and sequences into retrievable episodes. It does not work alone, but it helps turn scattered ingredients into an event that happens somewhere. Early on, its connections are rapidly reorganizing. What happens to a record when the filing system is rebuilt around it? Neuroscientist Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn proposed another striking piece of the puzzle. Their work in young rodents linked high levels of new neuron growth in the hippocampus with faster forgetting of early memories. New brain cells are useful because they increase flexibility and support future learning, yet they may also alter circuits carrying older information. Growth can be disruptive. Could forgetting be the cost of building a brain that learns faster? This does not mean a single switch erases your infancy. Childhood amnesia appears to come from several systems changing at once. The hippocampus matures, the outer regions of the brain become better at organizing experience, language expands, and your concept of self gains continuity. Each change improves future memory. Why would improvement make the past harder to reach? Imagine writing a diary in a language that is replaced every few months. The pages remain, but every new version of you uses a different dictionary, a different index, and a different map of what matters. An infant encodes an event with sensations, emotions, actions, and a very limited framework for time. An adult searches with words and stories. What happens when the search terms no longer match the original record? Language is not required for every memory. You can recognize a melody without naming its notes, and an infant can remember a pattern without describing it. But language gives personal memory hooks, order, and a structure that can be rehearsed with other people. Words stabilize a scene. how much easier is something to keep when you can tell it. Developmental psychologist Catherine Nelson argued that autobiographical memory grows through conversation. When an adult asks what happened, where it happened, how it felt, and what came next, a child practices turning experience into narrative. The event stops being only a flash of sensation and becomes a story with a beginning, a center, and an ending. Repetition strengthens the path back. Who teaches you the shape of a memory? The style of that teaching matters. Psychologist Robin Fivush found that adults differ in how elaborately they discuss the past with children. Some ask open questions, add details, and connect feelings to causes, while others focus on short factual answers. Those conversations influence how richly children later report personal events. Could part of your memory style have been built at the dinner table? Culture also reaches into the earliest page you can recall. Psychologist Chi Wang found that adults from different cultural backgrounds often differ in the age, focus, and emotional detail of their earliest memories. Cultures that emphasize individual experiences tend to encourage more self-focused personal stories, while cultures emphasizing relationships often produce memories centered more on social context. Your biology sets limits, but storytelling helps choose what survives. How private can a memory be if other people help build it? Even the date of your first memory is slippery. Developmental psychologist Carol Peterson followed children over time and asked them repeatedly about their earliest recollections. Younger children often reported events from very early ages, but years later, some of those same children no longer remembered them and offered newer first memories instead. The boundary moved forward. Did the event vanish, or did access to it collapse? Patricia Bauer and Marina Larkina also tracked early memories across childhood. Their research showed that forgetting is not a wall that suddenly appears at age 3. It is a gradual process in which early events become less accessible at different rates as children grow. The beginning of your remembered life is a moving shoreline. How many scenes once stood on land before the water reached them? This helps explain a strange family experience. A child may describe an early event vividly only to deny knowing anything about it a few years later. The adults remember the child remembering, so the lost memory survives as a memory in someone else. The witness outlasts the scene. Could another person be carrying evidence of a life you can no longer enter? Photographs complicate it further. A picture can preserve accurate details, but it can also become the seed of a scene that feels internally remembered. Each retelling adds perspective, emotion, and movement until borrowed information blends with genuine fragments. Confidence is not proof. How many of your earliest images began outside your head? Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus showed how easily suggestion can reshape autobiographical memory. In famous false memory studies, plausible stories, and guided imagination led some people to report events that had never occurred. The lesson is not that every early memory is false, but that memory is reconstruction rather than playback. Your mind rebuilds. Why would the earliest and least rehearsed scenes be immune? Your first memories often contain odd camera angles. You may see your childhood body from across the room, although your eyes could never have occupied that position. That observer perspective can arise as later knowledge, photographs, and repeated storytelling reshape the original point of view. The scene feels direct. What if its camera was installed years afterward? Still, forgetting an episode does not mean the experience became meaningless. Early relationships help tune expectations about comfort, danger, attention, and trust. Repeated patterns can shape how your stress system responds and how readily you approach other people, even when no single cradleside moment returns. The lesson may remain without the footage. Can your body remember what your conscious mind cannot? That idea needs care. Not every fear, preference, or habit is a hidden infant memory waiting to be decoded. Human behavior grows from temperament, later experience, culture, chance, and countless interactions that resist simple origin stories. Your infancy matters without explaining everything. Isn't that more believable than one forgotten moment secretly controlling your life? The counterintuitive truth is that your empty beginning may reflect successful development. Your brain was not sitting idle until the first scene you can report. It was learning at tremendous speed while rebuilding the very systems that would later preserve experiences for decades. You forgot while becoming better at remembering. What if the blankness is a construction site rather than a graveyard? You can see a smaller version of this process today. Your mind keeps what fits current goals, repeats what feels meaningful, and loses details that no longer have useful routes back. Every act of remembering also updates the memory, because the present supplies a new mood and a new interpretation. Your past changes as you do. How different are you now from the child who first encoded your earliest surviving scene? There is no perfect recording hidden behind your eyes. There is a living system built to guide you, not an archive built to satisfy you. It compresses, combines, strengthens, and discards, so that an overwhelming stream of experience can become a usable model of the world. Forgetting creates room for meaning. Would a mind that kept everything know what mattered? So your first remembered birthday was not the beginning. Your first remembered bedroom was not the first place that felt safe. And your first remembered fear was not the first time your body learned danger. An invisible history had already shaped the person who would eventually tell stories about a past. The missing years are still yours. What would it feel like to treat them as foundations instead of blanks? The baby you were is unreachable in one sense. You cannot ask for a faithful report, replay a morning, or recover every face that once filled your entire world. Yet that child survives in skills learned without words, expectations formed through repetition, and a brain transformed by constant contact. Forgetting did not erase the beginning. You still have a life before your first memory.